Welcome to Talk to Me. Today, I have a follow up with my guest, Mr. Adam G. Fleming, PCC, and he is a life coach and a author and a husband, father, a lover of life, and a speaker of truth. And I'm excited to have him here on Talk to Me. An entrepreneur. Let me not leave that out. Adam, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brenda. It's so good to see you again.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Hey, one of the things I love about when you come on the show is that we just really have some good conversations. And I
Hmm.
know that you've been here before, but for those people that don't know exactly who you are, can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about how you became a life coach and what your path is right now?
Yeah, sure. Well, let's start with how I became a life coach. It's funny because I don't look like a runner now. Well, I'm not a runner. I do more walking now to get my exercise, but I was a high school cross country runner. And in my senior year, we qualified for the state meet. And I
Hmm.
wasn't the fastest guy, but my teammates voted me most inspirational. I was kind of the in-house cheerleader because cross
Hmm.
country, you don't get cheerleaders. You just got to do it yourself.
Right, right.
so, um, fast forward a number of years, and I'm still kind of trying to figure out how do I use this, kind of raw ability to encourage people. I call it my madness.
Hmm.
Um, and I walk up to a guy I'm working with. I'm in my early 30s now, and I said, "Hey, I haven't had a mentor for a while. Would you mentor me?" And he goes, "No, but I'll coach you." And I said, "Well, whatever you want to call it," because I didn't know the difference. And so we got started. I found out he was going through a professional coach training program at the time. His name's Gary. Let's call him
Hmm.
Gary because that's his
Gary,
name.
okay.
So Gary started coaching me. He didn't charge me much because he was in training himself and he was
Hmm.
practicing with me as his guinea pig. And I was like, wow, there's okay, so I got the madness, but now there's this methodology
Hmm.
and it's something you can actually learn to do and get training on and improve at. And there are specific skills that you can learn to actually help you be an encouragement to people and help them break through and make changes in their lives and improve themselves and go for the state meet, so to speak, and
Hmm.
and make it. And so yeah, that was all the way back in, I think, 2006 or 2007. So by 2009, I had finished my own, professional coach training course that I went through. So, gosh, it's almost 12 years ago now that I graduated. And, Gary and his wife, Tina, both encouraged me right away. If you really want to lock in these skill sets, what you ought to do is train other people.
Hmm.
And Gary's brother-in-law is a pretty a famous author in the coaching community and had some open source materials that you could use to train other coaches. And so like you can buy it for $20 for
Hmm.
it's just like an 8-hour class, nothing like
Okay.
a full-fledged professional thing. And so they said, we know a few people who would like to get a little training on this. They don't need to be professionals. um, and I trained him in 2010. So it was like the next year. I hadn't even been finished with my own training for a year. And I really enjoyed that. Training other people in the coaching skill sets means that I have to demo them. And
Hmm.
which means that I have to be on, with each of the different kind of techniques
Hmm.
or things that you use to be able to train people so they can see how it works when a professional does it, and then they can model their practice after that. And so that's what I do. And I train people is I do, a little instruction, but a lot of demo.
Hmm.
Now you practice it and then debrief it with people. And that's 45 minutes or 50 minutes out of every hour of training. And so anyway, long story short, that's how I got here today as someone who spends more of his time actually training people in coaching skills than actually working one on one with clients. So it's kind of funny. Funny. It's been a journey.
And Adam, I want to stop right there for a minute about the training people,
Mm-hmm.
because one of the things that we see now, which is really prevalent and really for just in full disclosure, gets on my last nerve is everybody wants to call themselves a life coach.
Yeah,
Because, I understand that if you live, you have some ideals about how life should go. But there is
sure.
actually skills, methodology,
Yeah,
and techniques that people have to learn to be effective to get the results people need. Can you
right.
speak to that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people are being hoodwinked and spending a lot of
Yeah,
money getting titles as life coach, but
right.
really don't have the skills and are creating some real damage for people out here.
Well, it's something to think about. If you're thinking about becoming a coach and you don't want to damage people, then you want to find a reputable trainer or a reputable training program to work with, because you don't want to be that person who winds up after 5 years realizing, what did I do to all these people? And there's something about using a specific set of skills and techniques, as you said, and methodologies that can be effective, but at the very least, do no damage. You
Do
know,
no damage.
and the damage is caused oftentimes when we give advice that isn't appropriate or healthy. The coaching methodology really is contrary to popular opinion. If you see something on coaching, there's a commercial that somebody's running right now on TV during football games. It's a big company. I can't remember who it is, and I wouldn't say their name anyway.
Mhm.
But they have the parent life coach or something trying to teach people not to be their parents, and he's just walking around giving people advice and kind of telling them, no, don't do that, no, don't do that, and trying to show them the way. And the reality is that really great coaches don't give almost any advice at all, because and here's a quote from the Lord of the Rings for people who love that. I don't know if it's in the movies, but in the book, it's the wizard Gandalf says to Frodo, advice is a dangerous thing, even from the wise to the wise.
Mm.
And I love that saying, because really, if there's any way that you can damage people, it's by giving them advice that actually sends them in the wrong direction, right? It's like when you pull up to a street corner and you go, hey, where's the nearest, gas station? And somebody goes, oh, well, they don't know, or they think they know. They say, go right here and go down 5 miles and you'll find it. Well, if it was actually left, you're running out of gas down there,
Yeah.
and you're going, why did that guy tell me? I wish he would have just told me nothing or said, I don't know. It
Really.
would have been better for me, than to just blindly follow this advice. And so I think that's probably the biggest misconception about coaching that there is that coaches give advice. So then people are asking, well, if you don't give advice, how on earth do you help people? So that's can I ask myself the next question?
And I was going to say, well, that's it. If you don't give advice, exactly what are you doing to help people when you're coaching them?
All right. So you're holding up a mirror. That's a big part of it. There's a lot of specific skills around either saying, hey, Brenda, I heard you say this exact word. Like I was watching some of my trainees this week, and one guy said the word awkward twice. And the other guy, who was in the practice coach, didn't pick up on it and didn't ask a question around the word awkward. So was that bad? Was it good? Was it wrong? It's not about it being wrong or right. It's just like, then I give the feedback, like, that might have been an interesting word to ask a question around. Not that you did, and I'm always careful to say there's many different ways to coach, but you're listening for repetition. You're listening for words like feeling awkward that indicate, what's going on. And then just holding up that mirror and say, I heard you say the word awkward twice. Well, what's that mean to you? And then asking a question that invites the client to diagnose, because they're healthy, right? If they're not healthy, they probably need to see a counselor or therapist. But if they're healthy, they can diagnose that word themselves. Well, that means this, 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 and this, and probably means that I need to take action in this way. And boom, you didn't give them any advice. You just reflected back to them. It's a lot more, it's even more simple than I just made it sound, and a lot more difficult.
And that's why I say one of the things I learned when I've been working with people is that I have to really be intuitive and I have to be a good listener. You can't,
Yes.
like, I had a prep coaching call when I was at the beginning of my journey, and I still remember that the person spent more time on their cell phone than listening to me. So I purposely began to just throw in crazy words in between there. And when they didn't say anything or acknowledge it, I knew that was not the person to work with. So is it true that if there are people out there looking at this right now say, oh, I want to be a coach, a life coach, a accountability coach, whatever coach you want to be, dog catcher coach at this point, because
Right.
I've seen them all. I actually saw that on one of the Facebook things. I thought,
Yeah.
really? But okay, so whatever
You
it
mean
is,
they
you have to
coach
be a
dog catchers?
yeah, it's like, really, there were people.
Yeah.
I'm never surprised at what I see anymore of what kind of coach. People realize that life coach is becoming very common. So I've seen I've seen an accountability coach. I saw a get it done coach, a limiting belief coach. You name it, it's a coach for it.
Yeah,
But if
just
they're
take
going to
the
be a
adjective
coach,
off, Brenda. It's just good coaching is good coaching, and it shouldn't matter too much what kind of walk of life your client is going through. Those are all marketing terms. Those are all designed to help the prospective client figure out, is this the person for me? I ran into somebody who was a coach for bursars on multi-million-dollar yachts.
wow.
So people who are I'm not even sure what a bursar does, but the way I understand it, it would be like the bookkeeper and the person who kind of keeps the galley stocked and makes sure there's all the food and liquor or whatever that their owner, the boss, wants on the boat at any time, and has it in port, gets it clean. I don't know. They probably the GM of the boat, basically, and that person is only coaching this. So yeah, there's a coach for everything. And the bottom line is you can create your own niche, because that's marketing. But
so do you think it's important for the people that are just using the broader term life coach to really niche down and, like, say, I'm a financial coach, or I'm a spiritual coach, or I'm a how to turn on your iPad coach, like one I might need lately?
how do you turn on your iPad?
Yeah, I'll out myself. Recently, I had an incident where I couldn't figure out why my iPad wasn't working, and I was sure that I had charged it, but I hadn't turned it on. So I might need a coach in that area.
Right.
Yeah, I'm that one.
That's funny. Well, I mean, the question is, that's a marketing question. Should everyone niche? I've run into some coaches who've said, I really enjoy being a generalist and not niching myself too much. And I am not a master marketer. So I don't think it's fair for me to answer that question. You see, then again, I would be getting into giving advice in an area that I don't know well enough.
Okay. So it's a personal choice then.
Sure. I mean, I don't often call myself a life coach because I think it's just gotten such a bad rap in the media, like what you see on TV, what you see in movies. Life coaches look hokey, foolish, stupid. Like they're just, people just make fun of it, and which is fine. Like I like to have fun and laugh at myself. So like usually when I see that stuff, I'm just like, that's pretty funny. They got a good take on that, and I don't get my shorts in a bunch, but it's not a term that really speaks to a lot of people. So I tend to call myself a leadership coach, or just to, let people know I'm a coach trainer. And then when they say, are you a coach's coach? I say, no, not really. That's different. So, and there are people who coach coaches. In fact, that's kind of the joke, is that it becomes this cyclical thing, or a pyramid scheme or something.
Right.
But anyway, what was the question?
The question was, should coaches niche down?
Should they?
And you said I'll be giving advice.
Well, yeah, but I think most marketers that you run into will probably say yes, unless you're really, truly just going to be a life coach and tell people it's like, whatever is going on in your life, I can help you with it. Which, as far as I'm concerned, there's some truth to that if you're good at it.
And for me, that was one of the problems I had when I first started this, where people were trying to get me to pick one thing, either talk about relationships or talk about money or talk
Mm-hmm.
about spirituality or talk about mental health. And the
Mm-hmm.
truth is, I can talk about all of those.
Mm-hmm.
Do I specialize in any of them? Absolutely not, because I'm
Mm-hmm.
all over the place, but that's my personality. So
Mm-hmm.
I try to individualize based on what the person needs. And when it's beyond me, I simply say, you know what, that's not in my pay grade. Let me find you someone
Mm-hmm.
that would be able to help you with that, which is why I would very seriously refer them to, hey, you might want to go over there to Adam because he has a course on that. So let's talk about your course.
Oh, thank you so much. I love it. Yeah. Well, our course is called the Intercultural Coach Training course. And can I just say our
Yeah,
website right up front is,
please feel free.
at motivationallistening.net
Okay.
forward
Write
slash
this down, motivationallistening.net.
forward slash ICCT,
ICCT. Okay.
which stands for Intercultural Coach Training.
Okay.
So I am not the be all end all of understanding intercultural values, crossing cultures. But my sense is that, first of all, my goal is to have this course certified by the International Coach Federation. So it's 100% legit. I've already done that on contract for other companies. Recently, just a couple months ago, found out that we had succeeded with one of them. And so that was really exciting. And I believe in the International Coach Federation, partly because I believe if you're going to be a coach and ask people to be accountable to you, it also makes sense for you also to be accountable to a professional organization for quality practices and ethical standards. So I want my training program. So we're in the beta mode right now, which means we're about 30% less than what we're going to end up being once we are certified. And the cool thing is that people go through the training program, they can retroactively or like be grandfathered onto that once we do get it, which, I guess I can't use the word guarantee, but I have no
Right.
question in my mind that we will get it by the end of the year. And then, that makes it easier for the individual to also be certified by the International Coach Federation. And by the way, if you're watching this and you see the PCC on my name, that's my credential level with the International Coach Federation. So is all that stuff important? Does that matter in terms of helping your client? Absolutely not. Do people have to be part of that? I like the accountability thing. I like being able to say, look, if you have any questions about how I sold my services, feel free to make a complaint to the ICF. I know a guy locally who sells his coaching in a way that I consider to be unethical. But I certainly won't name names. But the story I heard was he told people, you have to commit to the coaching and then I'll tell you what the price is. Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
That's pretty.
That is not the way it's supposed to work. But see, that's what I'm saying. Organizations like that help you be assured that the person that's coaching you has a standard, number one,
right,
has accountability, actually has a methodology that has been proven,
right,
and has a support of other coaches and an organization that if they hit a snag, they'd be able to get the support not only that the coach needs, but that you need to support you fully.
Right, right. And so I think, and I want the same thing for my training program. So the focus is 80% on the basic coaching stuff that we've been talking about: listening, asking great questions, holding up that mirror, all that kind of stuff that I train people with specific. Like, I'm going to demonstrate this, then you're going to practice it, then we're going to debrief it. It's not lecture. And then that's about 80% of the course. And then about 20% of it is going to involve understanding different cultures. And it's interesting because the International Coach Federation has what they call core competencies. So what does a coach have to be able to do? And 4 or 5 times in those core competencies, and I have a printout of it because I refer to it so often because I'm a curriculum designer. Most coaches don't have this printed out, but I do, because I'm always thinking about, okay, this section of curriculum, how does it plug into the competencies? And it
Right.
says context and culture, understanding influence of context and culture all over the thing. So why would we not want to train people, to be able to recognize when maybe the conflict that they're having with the client, or they're missing something because there's a cultural disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is today you can find, like Brenda, you and I, we know people in common, like our friend Pablo, I believe he's, his background is Ecuadorian.
Right.
And you've met his father, he's Ecuadorian. And you can go online, and tomorrow through LinkedIn, you can connect with a potential client in London, Hong Kong, Tokyo, Delhi, Abu Dhabi, Johannesburg. I mean,
Yes.
Denmark. But do you have any clue how to chameleon into that culture to make it to make the difficulty of them interacting as low as possible? So you're doing the work to like try to get on the wavelength with your client's culture. So I'm not doing that myself as a North American. I have a guy from Egypt who's going to help me. So we actually have North American, Middle Eastern perspectives. So, hey, I'm getting excited, but it's going to be a cool program.
You know what I think is amazing? I think it's going to be a really cool program, because for me, I had a client once that it seemed that no matter what I said, I couldn't get this person to smile. They were just really stoic. And I thought that meant that, number one, that they didn't like me. And really, it was a cultural thing. It was actually a form of respect.
Right.
And it wasn't until the end. I spent 6 weeks being miserable coaching this person, thinking I am not making any headway. They're not getting anything out of this. And I'm just getting more and more frustrated. So I fully expected them to request a refund at the end, only to get this like 3-page letter of how great I was and how much they enjoyed. And I'm thinking, but your face. And so I wrote back to ask them and said it. And that's how I learned that basically what they were doing was showing me respect.
Right.
And so from that, I began to look into different things. So if I had a concern about the way someone was behaving or whatever, I would ask the question before making the assumptions.
Right.
And also I began to study cultures, because there are just like we have different words for different things, because someone asked me a question and I'm telling you, I was ready to fight, not realizing what they were saying didn't mean what they said.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think what you're referring to in terms of the respect that people give coaches is, North American culture is very equality driven. And so you and I are sitting here, we're talking to each other like peers. Neither of us kind of puts the other one as like, oh, you're up here and I'm down here, and neither one of us looks at the other way either and thinking, well, you're not as good as me or something. And that's just North American culture. We think that we have virtually no status. It's not really true. It's not really true that we don't have status, but we kind of ignore it even when it's there. Probably the strangest example of it actually being there was one time when I was a furniture delivery guy in my 20s in New York City. And we watched this lady in a high-rise in Manhattan just ripping on her gal that did her laundry and her maid basically. And it was like, whoa, totally forgot that there were classes in this country. But in other countries, the coach is going to be coaching evolved out of North America with this whole idea of I'm going to partner with you on kind of an equal status. You may be CEO running, a Fortune 200 company. And I may just be like an independent life coach from Indiana, but I'm going to come alongside of you as equals. In other cultures, it just doesn't work that way. And so how do you work with somebody to help them loosen it up enough to share with you what's really going on when they're putting you on this non-equal, hierarchy pedestal where like, I wouldn't have hired you as my coach if I didn't have this massive respect for you. And then you think, I'm not getting through.
Right. I really thought I wasn't getting through. Right. And even when you say that, Adam, too, we talk about in the Be Seen Accelerator and the Be Connected Collective about imposter syndrome. And that was
Mm-hmm.
something that I had to learn to deal with for myself, because as I began to work with doctors and CEOs,
Mm-hmm.
business owners, entrepreneurs, and I'm thinking, but you're just talking to me,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Mm-hmm.
valued my input. And I was very happy when I began to see people getting results
Mm-hmm.
from the services I provided. And, I've told you before, and I will tell you publicly here with these people listening, you changed the way I view coaching. You also changed the way I coached, because in the conversations that we had, you were the person that told me that I'm just as good as anybody I walk into the room with, and
Mm-hmm.
that I did not have to have the imposter syndrome. You also
Mm-hmm.
taught me about not giving advice, but holding
Mm-hmm.
up the mirror. There's
Mm-hmm.
things in the conversations that I gleaned from you about how to conduct myself, how to ensure that I am on the right track to get my credentials, and
Mm-hmm.
not just show up saying, oh, because I showed up, do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important when we talk about like your course, what that's going to do for the next round of coaches and individuals that decide to take it. So now
Mm-hmm.
somebody has decided to take your course. What is the time commitment to take your course?
Oh, that's a great question, because it is not small. And, there's you can see these courses out there like become a life coach in one weekend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sorry, you just wasted $25 to $5,000, whatever it was that you bought junk. A
Mm-hmm.
weekend is not enough time. So what we have is it's an 80-hour course, about 65 hours in class. So that means I'm going to be there. Is you're not watching me on a video like you are now. I'm going to actually be there in the Zoom call, and about 15 hours of homework over the course of about 5 months. So this is like taking a college course. This is
Okay.
like showing up a couple times a week, um, and doing the work in between. We'll hook you up with somebody as a peer coach, so you'll have somebody to practice with from the class, and
Mm-hmm.
that's counted as some of the homework. So this isn't the teaser course that I was talking about earlier. That's like 6 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
That I was encouraged to teach back in 2010. Is obviously my career has evolved a little bit from there, and now we're building this. We have this course that's 80 hours long. So it's going to be, I would say, think in terms of a 3 to 5 hour a week commitment.
Okay. And who's the
Um,
ideal person to take this course?
well, there's two types of coaches, right? There's the type there's many types of coaches, of course, but I'll break it into two just for
Okay.
simplicity. There's the type who like, well, it's legal, I'm just going to become a coach right now, and jump in, start marketing themselves, and then find out that their clients are disappearing left and right because they don't really know how to coach yet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's great for someone who's already said, I know I want to be a professional coach. I want to help people this way, but they haven't gotten training. There's no shame in that. I won't shame you for that, but you need the training. It's just, it's super helpful. And the results will become, as Brenda, you said it yourself, more consistent
More
results for your
consistent.
clients. And then the other group of coaches is the group of coaches who says, I want to be a professional coach, but I'm not going to do it until I start getting training. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, on day one, I'm going to teach you a few things, and then I want you to go find some clients to practice it with. Because if you do these things, you will not hurt them.
Right.
You're not a pro yet. That's okay. But adults learn by experience. So even if they're like, well, I still don't know anything yet, pretty quick into the course, maybe not the first day, but within the first couple of weeks, I'll be saying, go find a client. I don't care if it's your cousin. I don't care if it's your, whatever. Get somebody to practice these skills with, because they are habits. They're conversational habits, which is why we take 5 months to teach them and not a weekend, because nobody learns a habit in a weekend. You don't quit smoking in a weekend. You don't develop an exercise habit to run 3 miles a day in a weekend. You don't do any of that in a weekend. So I think those are the two types of people, I would say. And then, okay, a third type is maybe somebody who's working in HR, whose boss has asked them to coach people internally in a company. So you're
Mhm.
already working in this space, but you're doing it internally. And you're thinking, okay, I took one of those weekend things. I learned a little bit about coaching, but wow, I can already feel that I need more. I need more training. And finally, any of those three types of people who are thinking that at some point they would like to possibly, don't have to be committed to it yet, but possibly become an International Coach Federation accredited coach. If they want to be ICF, then we can help them get there. So,
Now, just listening to you, I wanted to ask, knowing your background in leadership coaching, is this something that maybe a small business would want to um, look into for a group of their management team to learn so they can coach employees better? Or is that not part of this program? Or is that part of your separate program?
man, that's a great question. I mean, it depends how small the small business is, because I know the SBA puts that up to 500 people.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you had, a 500 people in a small business and you've got an HR department that has 4 people in it, you might want to send 2 of them through this kind of a course,
Okay.
but just expecting that, they're going to be working on this for 5 months,
Okay.
and it might take away from some of their other work.
Got you. Okay.
In terms of, I'm just going to be honest, like, I think managers who just want to use some coaching skills in managing their people,
Mm-hmm.
you're probably going to want something that's more like a 15 or 20 hour course, or 8 hours, just to get a taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can put that stuff together in my sleep. So if a company called me up and said, we want you to train, we want to do an 8-hour training for 200 managers, I could do that, but I don't think it would be this program.
Right. But you have done that before, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, sure.
Okay. So that's
Yeah.
something
I can do that kind of.
Okay.
Yeah. That's customized.
That's a
type
customized program. So
Sure.
So we got the one-on-one coaching that you provide. You
Sure.
have your mini courses that you provide. You have this new one that you're launching, which has a longer commitment. And you also have your customized program. So you're pretty busy with all the coaching that you can do.
I could be pretty busy. Sometimes I choose to not be busy and I just go. So here's the last thing I'm doing. I guess we got a little more time.
Yes, we have time. Mm-hmm.
So I this whole question of what kind of niche do you have, and like how do you go from being a generalist to kind of a. So I was thinking, I want to do some challenging stuff. And I'm an adventurous guy and I love to travel. We lived in Egypt for a while, and I lived in Congo when I was a kid. And I've been around the world a few times, but I wanted to do this thing called El Camino de Santiago, which is in northern Spain. There's a pilgrimage route that people have walked to this cathedral 300, 400, 500 miles since 900s. More than a millennium. And I want to take a small group of 3 to 5 men and just hike this thing for 2 weeks in November. So that's my other project. And it's interesting how people got excited about that. And even though I don't have the package even quite completely figured out yet, like I know it's November 1 to 14. I know it's men only. We're not going to, women some other time when my wife can go along or something. But for this time around, and I know a few things. And in the last 2 days, I had people tell me I'm a soft yes.
Okay.
So I'm kind of excited about walking in Portugal and Spain in November, and that's the kind of thing that gets me jazzed up. And so we're going to walk for 2 weeks and talk. And how, each person can choose when they want to go, just have time of walking in silence and meditation, and when they want to walk with the group, or when they want to walk just with me, and kind of have, the coaching session sort of being informal to some extent, and, carry your journal and make notes and think about
that sounds pretty
purpose.
Exciting.
I think it's going to be super cool. And I think I'm going to fill that package up pretty quick here. So if there's a guy out there who's, and I don't mind just saying on your podcast, it's a $10,000 project. Okay. So we're going to have a coaching group for 3 months before and 3 months after. So it's like joining a mastermind for $1,500 a month, but you get to go hike in Spain in the middle of it. So I think it's going to be pretty sweet, and I think it's going to come together. So
That sounds really amazing. Now tell us, Adam, how does someone get in contact with you to get any of these packages so they can get all the information? Where do we go?
right, great, because I don't actually have like click button and buy type of stuff on my websites because I want to
Okay.
interview people and make sure they're a good fit for me.
Okay.
I don't have time to deal with every single person, and I want to make sure that person's going to be a good fit for the program, whatever that program might be. Obviously, if they need something custom, I got to interview them and find out what it is that they want their managers to learn or whatever we were talking about. It's at www.motivationallistening.net is my website.
Okay.
And my email is listed on there. My phone number might even be on there. I'm not a super private person.
Okay.
I'm not that hard to get a hold of. And yes, what else? My email address is still going back to the days when we just called ourselves a life coach. So it's adam.fleming.lifecoach@gmail.com. Yep.
Okay. Well, Adam, I want to thank you for being on Talk to Me. And if you'll stand by, I'd like to give out my shout out to the veterans.
Amen.
I'd like all of you to look above me here and give a thank you to a veteran. If you go to www.nevcc.org/projects and thank a veterans, there are 12 opportunities for you to thank a veteran throughout the year. Each month has its own theme. In February is live, learn, and pass it on. If that doesn't work for you, go to one of the other 12 months and write a thank you to a veteran, because in 2022, we'll be compiling all those thank yous and notes of appreciation to tell a veteran that you thank them for their service. If you want to be a part of that, or you want to leave a donation, go to nevcc.org/projects. And remember, thank a veteran. Adam, again, thank you for coming to the show. And for everyone watching, remember, the choices you make today will be the reality you live tomorrow. Choose wisely.
Thanks, Brenda. I appreciate you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks, Adam.
Uh-huh.